So it was about 9 years ago. I was working at the time just myself. I didn't have any employees. I had one machine, and I'm cutting this part. There's a company in the area here, big automation company. And I was making this part for them, and it had a due date that was critical. So it was due on Friday. So I had this part. I cut it. I actually had a little bit of turning work done, which at the time I didn't do in-house. It was turned. I got it. I did some machining. I sent it out. I had it heat treated. I got it back, and I had to do a little bit more finish work to it. And so I had it set up in this lathe right back here. And I am a experienced guy in all aspects of machining, but I'm not a real high-skilled lathe operator. So I'm loading in my tool, and I'm coming in there to create a groove that I had missed earlier in the process. And so I'm putting this groove in and didn't realize that I had engaged the drive on the tool to move forward along the axis of the lathe. And as I turned the lathe on, that tool decided to move this way, drove right into the part, blew the tool up, threw the chunk of steel out of the lathe, rolled across the shop. Thankfully, I wasn't injured. I stood there. I remember staring at this part, or the lack of a part at that time, thinking, and I breathed deeply and said, what am I going to do now? I got to solve this problem. This thing's due in 3 hours. So I went and picked up the part. I looked it over. It's all scarred up around this. And this part at this point is worth $1,700, $1,800. And I've got to seemingly start over. Well, I thought about I could go and groove in there and kind of cover up the damage. I pondered that briefly, and I thought, you know what? That's kind of hiding something that's not to spec anymore. So I got to get a hold of the customer. It's a large company here in town. And so I emailed, called a couple places. Nobody's answering on a Friday afternoon. And eventually I got through to somebody, and I said, hey, can you please talk to as many people as you can find out this is what I want to do to the part to make it look okay. I messed up something. And so they did their work on their end, were able to find an engineer, approved me to change it to that method that I suggested. And so I added in these grooves, turned the part in, and breathed a sigh of relief, kind of waiting to hear, are they happy or not? And it was about 3 weeks later, I get a phone call from a guy I know there. And he says, hey, talking to one of the engineers here. And he had this part, and he was bragging about, man, we got a source that just does these amazing parts. And I'm listening to him, not really clicking that it was that part, right? And he says, so I went and checked on it, and you made this part. I'm like, well, what part are you talking about? It's a round part, and then, it's got this, step in it. The step's a different color. I couldn't quite figure that out. That was because of heat treat. So I just started laughing, and the guy's name was Casey. I just started laughing. Casey, you won't believe this. Like, I messed that part up. But the part looked good. I called and I asked, can I change this? And I think that was the big lesson for me, to make sure I always do that. If we do something wrong, just talk to the people. If you've got good customers, they're going to work something out with you. And it builds your reputation, integrity. It really matters to us. And that was just a great moment in my life that taught me, be honest with people.